Saturday on Melrose Mountain, higher ground, Tryon, North Carolina. Ever ask yourself, why am I here? Well, it's a good question. And I believe we're here to be happy, but I also believe that we're happy when we glorify Him. And I think it's a paradox because I think it's pretty hard to be happy or joyful if you're not glorifying Him. I think it's very difficult. What is worship? I mean, tomorrow we say that we'll go to church to worship. Well, what does it mean to worship? What is worship all about? What's the object of worship? What's the method of worship? What's the purpose of worship? And what's the result in worshiping? Well, I believe that the object of worship has to be God. It can't be your mate. It can't be the church. It can't be the pastor. It can't be the music. It can't be any of the ministers or teachers. It has to be God. That needs to be our focus of our worship. What's the method of our worship? Well, there's a lot of different methods of worshiping, obviously. But it's important for us to understand that the method of worshiping has changed over years to bring us to the proper method of worshiping. The original primitive method of worship was offering offerings. That's what Cain and Abel did. More organized worship came when the tabernacle was established. There were still offerings and there were still ways of gathering together to bring an offering. And then came the synagogue, which was not only a way of worshiping God, but also it was a way of teaching what God wants so that we could please Him and glorify Him. And we know that it's very important that worship be regular. It can be private or it can be public. It can be very, very detailed. It can be very ritualistic. But the key to real worship is from the heart. As a matter of fact, Jesus had a debate with a woman at the well about the place of worship, where to worship. Whether there by the well or whether in Jerusalem. And Jesus said, no, it's not about the where. It's about the how. It's about the method of worship. It needs to be in spirit and in truth. What does it mean, spirit of truth? The Spirit of God, obviously. Truth with sincerity of heart. Worship is an attitude, not an activity. Let me say that again for you. Worship is an attitude and not an activity. It's very, very clear when you look at the story about the Pharisee and the tax gatherer went up to worship. The Pharisee went up with pride of heart. I'm glad I'm not like the sinner over there. The tax gatherer went up with a humble spirit, seeking God, saying, I'm not even worthy, bowing down in humbleness before God. You see, it's all about the heart. The purpose of worship, of course, is to celebrate. It's for correction so that we can confess, get things right. It's for consecration. It's for growth. It's for prayer, both petitions and adoration. It's for praise, praise of God. It's for thanksgiving, giving thanks for all you've been blessed with. It's for communion, remembering Christ who died for us. The result of worship, it's for direction. It's for faith growth. It's for renewal. It's for conversion of those that don't yet know Christ. And all in all, it's to glorify God. I heard a wonderful illustration one time. Man died and he went to heaven and he stood on the clouds with St. Pete and he looked down and God says, I want you to see worship. The man looked down and he saw a church. He thought, well, that's appropriate. Christ established the church. And then God opened up the church from a sky view. And there was someone that was head bowed, moving his lips. And as it became obvious when the ushers came forward to pick up the collection plates, that it had been a time of prayer. And now the people were going to have an opportunity to give a worship offering. Then a little bit later, a man stood up and he began to wave his arms, and it started to become obvious as the mouths were opening and closing of the congregation and the choir that it was a time of music. Then the preacher got up. He opened the Bible and he began to move his lips, and the man said, "Well, it looks like they're doing a good job worshiping." God said, "Oh, no, they're not. No, they're not." He said, "What?" There was some more time of preaching. There was some more time of singing. And the man said, "Well, it looks to me like they're worshiping." And God said, "But they're not." And he said, "But God, I have a question. Why are we only watching, and why can we not hear?" Well, God says, "Oh, there's audio on this whole vision. There is sound." And the man said, "But I can't hear it." Just about the time that he got those words out of his mouth, God scanned in and zoomed in on a little girl in the very back of the church. Her lips weren't moving at all, but clearly out of her came the audible sound. "God, forgive me. I'm a sinner. God, thank you for all that you do for me. Jesus, stay in my heart. Jesus, I love you." And God looked at the man in heaven and he said, "That is worship." That's your thought for the day. Hope that you'll go and worship him tomorrow. God bless you. Have a great day.